Top of the SportsMax zone for this Wednesday. The transfer window is open and English Premier League clubs have already started splashing the cash. And let's have a look at some of the deals with Brent Sancho, who is about to join us, George. We are still some weeks away from the start of the new season. Liverpool fans may be a little bit anxious that one of the key components of the success they've had over the past 5 years or so, Sadio Mane, has now completed his sign-off with Bayern Munich.
Yeah, cycle ending after a good stint, a very successful stint, won every trophy that was available, League Cup, FA Cup, FIFA Club World Cup, Champions League, Premier League. He won the lot. The only thing he didn't win was the Community Shield, which is, I mean, neither here nor there. But yeah, he won the lot there, and he was a star. He wasn't a passenger. He was driving the bus. He leaves as one of the most successful players in recent Liverpool history, since their halcyon days of the 80s and 70s.
Yeah. John Barnes and Ian Rush.
Yeah, after that group, when they went the long Barron spell, 30 years without a Premier League title, Sadio Mane would represent one of the best players in their history. Well, one of the most successful players in their history and one of the best. Yeah. So beyond the baubles that he has won, he is without a doubt, from a qualitative perspective, one of the best to put on the shirt of the Reds. And I'm happy that Senegal can have a bona fide legend for Liverpool, because it didn't quite go so well with their poster boy El Hadji Diouf. Yes. Who impressed at the 2002 World Cup, yes. Went to Liverpool, yes. And it didn't go well. And the Liverpool fans hate him. They love this guy. They love Mane.
Yeah, they love him for sure. And let's see how he'll do at Bayern Munich. Brent Sancho, the former international defender, played at the 2006 World Cup for Trinidad and Tobago. Also a former sports minister in sweet, sweet TNT. Brent Sancho, welcome to the zone again.
Good afternoon, Lance, George, and of course all your viewers on the different platforms.
Okay, let's follow up on the discussion we were just having here in studio, Brent. Liverpool, Mane out, Nunez in. How does Liverpool stack up based on the transfer window and the prospects for their 2022-23 season after going close in the season just concluded?
I think Mane's departure is a huge loss for Liverpool, and I think it's something that when you look at what he's been able to achieve after his move from Southampton and what he's done there in the Liverpool shirt, there were times during the season, and I think this particular season to the latter end, that he carried Liverpool on his shoulders. He's certainly not only just a big scoring outlet, but a big character as well within the squad. He brings a different dimension. He's a multifaceted player. He can play in various roles, whether it be the 9, whether it be the 10, out wide. He's someone that I think Liverpool is going to sorely miss. As much as we talk about the incomings, I think this outgoing is a big, big hit. If you ask me, guys, before Mane's departure, who would win the Premiership, it'd be a tough call between Liverpool and Man City. But I think with his departure, I think for me, Man City just edges it right now.
Yeah, Darwin Nunez is suiting up for Liverpool. There's a lot being said about him. How does he rank in your mind?
I think he's up there. I think in the top 3 summer targets for any club in world football, I think he would certainly be up there. Haaland would probably be ahead of him. But I think Nunez, in what we've seen what he's capable of doing. He's a big boy. He runs the channels well. He's good at holding the play, flicks the ball on. Obviously devastating in front of goal, and brings a different focal point for Liverpool. Of course, Firmino is the type of player that would drop into holes, but Nunez is an out-and-out striker. So he does bring a different dimension to Liverpool, as I said, a different focal point. And it'll be very interesting to see how Jurgen Klopp uses him, and of course how he does within the capabilities that he has and what he brings to Liverpool.
Fact is, Brent, that Mane leaving and Nunez coming in, let's look at that a little bit more, because the benefit that Mane brought with him to Liverpool was the experience of having played in the Premier League for scores of games. He was, of course, specialist insofar as the Premier League is concerned. Darwin Nunez is stepping up from a higher level stepping up to a higher level, the English Premier League, from the Portuguese League, which we know is middling good when the big teams play each other, but middling to poor beyond that. How long do you think it will take him reasonably to adjust to what is required of him in Liverpool?
I think Liverpool fans would hope he settles the way Luis Diaz settled. But I think what is a plus, George, is the fact that he gets a preseason under his belt. I think that is very, very critical for any player coming into the Premiership. I always feel that if a player comes in during the January window, it's probably the most difficult time to join the league. I think for what he brings to Liverpool and what he could do for Liverpool, I think it would take him, I would suggest, probably until Christmas to get things going. But that being said, we've seen players come into the Premiership and hit the ground running, as I mentioned, Luis Diaz. I think the challenge he would have, George, is that because Mane has left, the camera and lights and action is on him, because he will be looked upon as a direct replacement for Sadio Mane, something that we all know is not possible because he's not going to give you that kind of output right away. And I think the pressure of being that replacement will dictate, and how he handles that pressure will dictate how his life in Liverpool, of course, unfolds.
Yeah. The other thing to consider about hitting the ground running as we switch to Manchester City now and talk about Gabriel Jesus, and we hear that Arsenal are serious about signing him. When we saw Gabriel Jesus first in a Manchester City jersey, in that the short time he played after coming over from Brazil, he looked like a world beater in the making. Yeah, so he started hot. Luis Diaz started hot. Looked as if, next season with a preseason under his belt, he's going to kick doors down. It hasn't quite happened for Gabriel Jesus. It has been hit and miss, hot and cold, a lot of cold, patches of hot, but it hasn't quite worked out for him in a City jersey. Is he the answer to Arsenal's goal-scoring problems?
I think it has to be taken into consideration that Gabriel Jesus wanted to play the way he wanted to play. And we all know that under Pep Guardiola, you have to play his style of football. And I think that's where Gabriel Jesus really struggled. You're right. When he first came, he was given a lot more freedom. I think as the season went along and as Pep, of course, tried to really find a way he does things, I think Gabriel Jesus became a casualty of that. And because of that, he never really adjusted. There were times that he was asked to play out wide, and he was asked to play tactically in a false nine position. And he never really adjusted because he wanted to play the way that Gabriel Jesus played. For those who follow Brazil, they would know exactly what I'm talking about. He was a free-flowing, a forward, an out-and-out striker. I think from an Arsenal perspective, the question is Arteta going to put the shackles on him like, of course, Pep Guardiola did, or is he going to give him that freedom and build his team around him? And I think that would be the interesting factor as to whether or not he's successful at Arsenal.
And add to that, of course, Arteta knows him from their time working together at City when Arteta was Pep's assistant. Fact is, though, Brent Sancho, if we talk about Jesus, I've long said that it's time for Raheem Sterling to be the first name on the team sheet at a club. I don't think that at this stage of Raheem Sterling's career, you should be wondering if he's going to start a game, if he's wondering if he's going to come off after 60 minutes. That has been his lot at Manchester City. He's won everything except the Champions League there. So it's not as if he's short of medals and he's hanging around in the hope that he can win medals to burnish his CV. I think the time is now for a move. If you agree with me, then discuss with me, Brent, where should he leave Man City and go?
Yeah, I agree. We've heard a lot last summer, of course, about his unhappiness at playing times. We even heard it, of course, during the course of the season. And despite all of that, he still was not able to cement a certain position in Manchester City. It must be said, however, George, that at the end of the day, not many outside of Kevin De Bruyne, of course, can cement a place in the Man City team. So I think Raheem Sterling has to realize, as you rightfully said, at his age and where he is in his career. And we have to remember, guys, that this is a World Cup year. So this is not unfamiliar as it relates to football. Players have to move, they have to cement themselves, and of course they have to solidify themselves for their clubs so they can get their selections for their various national teams. So I think Raheem needs to make a move. I'm not sure about Chelsea, though, and I'll tell you why. Because I think Chelsea has a huge amount of uncertainty still around it. And for a player who's looking to cement himself with a coach in Thomas Tuchel, who is still trying to figure out exactly, A, what this ownership group is going to bring to Chelsea Football Club, and of course, B, how he's going to approach this season coming in. Because let's be honest, Chelsea has lost a lot of players during the transfer window, and how they are going to rebuild. So you'd have to agree that Chelsea is also in a rebuilding phase. And I think for Raheem Sterling, I'm not sure if it is the right move for him, if he is to make that move.
Yeah, and added to that, I think there probably is still a sour taste in his mouth. Although he's a super professional, Raheem Sterling is, I think there'd still be a sour taste in his mouth, Brent, from the racist abuse he suffered at Chelsea. Well, let's not forget, that was 2 seasons ago when he, or 2 seasons ago when he was attacked by the Chelsea Yobs, the Boo Boys, the racist boys. And I don't think he'd forget that. And given what we know of Raheem, he doesn't take those things lightly. The other thing to consider is this. I got a text message yesterday from our good friend Juan Arango. He was having a conversation with one of his friends, so he sent me a piece of the conversation where his friend was saying that Captain America at Chelsea is better than Raheem Sterling. Captain America, of course, being Christian Pulisic. And I said, is your friend mad? Raheem Sterling has 109 Premier League goals. Not 109 goals overall. He has 109 Premier League goals for Manchester City alone, not counting those he scored for Liverpool. There is no contest in my mind. Raheem Sterling, Christian Pulisic, who's the better player? And I say that, I make that as a point in the event that he goes to Chelsea and then Tuchel has to decide how to configure his forward line and which player to use.
Well, look, I think Juan's friend needs to realize it's the exact reason why they're going after Raheem Sterling, because of the failure of the likes of Pulisic, Ziyech, and I can name a few. And that is why that they have to go after a player like this. They need to get a more consistent supply line of goals. And that's Chelsea's problem. That's the reason why Lukaku 2 years ago was 100 million and then they sent him back on loan for 10 million because they are desperate for a supply line of goals. They've had some stability defensively, and as we know, they've had some departures there. Of course, in Rudiger and Christensen. And with those players gone and the need for attacking prowess, as I said a little while ago, Chelsea is in a rebuilding stage. There's nothing in my mind that would tell me that Chelsea is going to challenge for the championship. That is not going to happen. It's a straight 2-horse race going into the season. And for Chelsea, it's all about rebuilding. My only question is, they will have to spend some money on Raheem Sterling. Would that take away, of course, for the budget, where I think the real work needs to be done, and that's the defensive replacement for the 2 players that would have moved on.
Absolutely so. Let's talk about the Gunners, because I'm surprised not to see your nephew linked with the Gunners, Brent Sancho, whoever your nephew is, because Arsenal signing everybody. They've signed a young player from Porto who caught my eye in the recent Champions League season, and I did watch some of him in the Portuguese league, Fabio Vieira. The one thing I noted, and I've seen it pop up in the scouting reports about him, is that even at this stage of his career, he doesn't usually last beyond the 65-minute mark. The coaches usually take him out. The coach usually takes him out at that time, not trusting him late in the game, or maybe it's a stamina issue, maybe a developmental issue. But he has an eye for goal. He is fantastic at finding the right pass for the assist, and he seems to have the tools necessary to flourish at the highest level. The question is, from what you've seen of Fabio Vieira, can Arteta lift him to the next level? Is the player's temperament amenable to the kind of moulding that will have to happen for him to be a force in the English Premier League?
I think the reports coming out of Arsenal is all around the fact that Arsenal needs a bit of backbone and a bit of steel. And I think that's what he brings. He's certainly a big character. We've seen it, of course, in the Portuguese league. And I think more importantly, he can be someone that you can build your midfield around. The question really is, I think, is the other parts, and whether the other parts would be filled. As you rightfully said, I think everyone in world football is, of course, somehow an interest to Arsenal. What we know about Arsenal, they almost became a one-trick pony during the season, and that pony was Saka. And I think when he wasn't having a good game, it meant Arsenal would struggle. So I think they're looking for, of course, a more balanced attack. Hence the reason the likes of Gabriel, Jesus, etc. is being linked with them. And I think that is their overall thinking. But I think the steel that is missing, the backbone that is missing for Arsenal, they believe that this signing could provide it.
Because Man City have done good business so early, because Liverpool are done doing business, they say, everybody's asking what is happening with Manchester United. Someone asked me if I could advance a loan to Manchester United so they could start buying players. And I said, you've got the wrong guy. You've got to talk to Mr. Whittaker about that because, you know, the golden checkbook, yeah? There you go. So the transfer window closes, Brent, on September 1 at midnight, well, at 12:01 a.m. on September 1, the transfer window slams shut. A lot of time between then and now. Ought Manchester United fans to be as antsy as they are now, or should they take some medicament and relax?
I think they need to relax a bit. There's still a lot of time. There's still a lot to happen. Of course, a lot of contracts end June 30th. That's when most contracts they come to the end at the end of the month. So they're looking at various things. I think one thing is quite clear with Manchester United is that they're not going to, or they are going. Let me rephrase that. They're not going to try to make the mistakes of the past and the type of monies that they would have spent wildly and loosely. So I think they're being a little bit more thoughtful in their spend. They're looking at players that want to be part of Manchester United, and they're looking for players that could fill the void that the manager wants. However, as well, what is well documented is also trying to convince players. And I think that is one of the sticking points of Manchester United. This is a club that is not in Champions League. It is certainly in a rebuilding stage. And of course, we all knew about how toxic the dressing room is. There's still some characters within there that was, of course, attached, accused, and of course, finger pointed to as it relates to that toxicity in the dressing room. So if I'm a player that is being touted or being looked at for Manchester United, those are the things that will be swirling around in my head. Do I want to be part of a new project? Or do I want to be part of a finishing touch for a bigger club? And I think that's why Manchester United is having the trouble. I do think they will get some signings in there, but I do wonder if it's enough to make sure that they're competitive this season. And I think that is the big question.
Hear you on that, my friend. Thank you. We've run out of time. All the best to you.
All right, guys, have a great one.
All right, break time here on the SportsMax Zone. Thank you for watching SportsMax on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay informed.